Chapter 304, Legendary Control. Chapter 304, Legendary Control. Initially, only a trace of eternal energy was present in the isolated combat room. However, as time continued to pass, the eternal energy in the room grew denser and denser. In less than a minute, the entire combat room was shrouded in a thin layer of light purple mist. What dense eternal energy! My brain activity has doubled at the very minimum. Even my affinity with mana has improved by 2 whole levels. This effect is unbelievable. Shifeng mentally exclaimed time and again when he sensed the eternal energy enveloping his body. Typically, one could only find eternal energy in the many legacy lands of gods found across the greater gods domain. Even so, the eternal energy found in these legacy lands usually only existed in trace amounts. At most, it could give players an easier time learning their legacies. However, the amount of eternal energy present in this room was roughly triple the amount found in the various gods' legacy lands. It should be known that eternal energy could be used to forcibly increase a player's brain activity. Meanwhile, an increase in brain activity could bring various improvements to players. Not only would this change enhance their thinking speed, but they could also multitask at much greater efficiency. Players would also see a significant improvement in their control in various aspects. If a player's brain activity was doubled, it'd be akin to a person having an eureka moment. In such a state, it'd be difficult for a player not to improve. Not to mention, the dense eternal energy in the room also helped to increase players' affinity with mana by 2 whole levels. To put this into perspective, if an ordinary player could initially only vaguely perceive the existence and manipulate this mana as if they were wielding a greatsword with one hand, then after having their mana affinity enhanced by this room's eternal energy, they'd become a genius who could clearly perceive mana and manipulate it as if they were a master calligrapher wielding a feather pen. They could manipulate mana to their heart's desire with little to no effort. Eternal energy was also the biggest difference separating ordinary hegemonic powers from upper-ranking hegemonic powers. Any hegemonic power seeking to climb into the upper reaches of hegemonic powers would need an eternal sanctuary of their own. This was because an eternal sanctuary could help a hegemonic power produce batch after batch of Tier 6 powerhouses continuously. As a result, upper-ranking hegemonic powers possessed far more Tier 6 experts than ordinary hegemonic powers. System: you have 100 assisted simulation opportunities remaining. Each assisted simulation will show you the perfect way to control your mana body. You may only stay in the simulation space for a maximum of 5 natural days. If you do not use up your simulation opportunities in 5 natural days, your remaining opportunities will be automatically forfeited. System: do you wish to start the first assisted simulation? After taking a deep breath to calm himself, Shifeng said, "Start." Shifeng only possessed an epic mana body during his previous life. Although he had developed his mana body to the legendary 120% completion rate, it couldn't serve as a good reference for him to develop his current legendary mana body. In terms of complexity, a legendary mana body was vastly superior to an epic mana body. If he were to equate magic arrays to gears, an epic mana body would be made up of a few hundred gears, while a legendary mana body would be made up of upwards of 1,000 gears. Even with his previous life's experience, he had only managed to develop his legendary mana body to 110% completion rate before reaching a roadblock. If he wished to progress his legendary mana body by even 1%, he would have to invest a lot of time and effort into researching the proper way to control it. Fortunately, he now had the 100 refinement building to show him the way, so all he needed to do was follow and learn the example set for him. It was significantly easier than if he were to develop his legendary mana body by himself. While Shifeng was undergoing his first assisted simulation, the occupants of the 2 rooms next to him were having their minds blown. Whether it was Wu Xiaoxiao or Midsummer, both were dumbfounded by the 100 refinement building's environment. Incredible. This is simply incredible. Midsummer grew ecstatic as she looked at her surrounding environment. Not even the Purple Melody Alliance's peerless geniuses can get to enjoy such an environment. No wonder Brother Black Flame said that Xiao Xiao and I will have a chance to pass the preliminaries. The mana body was of utmost importance to every player. Personally, Midsummer felt that she was quite talented. Not only did she get accepted into the Purple Melody Alliance at a young age, but she also quickly became a core member of the alliance and received plenty of resources as a result. Afterward, she also cleared the World Tower's 4th floor, becoming a 4th floor expert. As an icing on the cake, she even possessed an epic mana body. Unfortunately, despite her talent and efforts, she hit a dead end after developing her epic mana body to 110% completion rate, and increasing it by even 1% more felt like an impossible task for her. It should be known that even a 1% difference in a mana body's completion rate could lead to a significant difference. Not to mention, the mana body would undergo a qualitative transformation every 5%. If she couldn't develop her mana body any further, a huge gap would form between her and geniuses with 115%, or even 120%, mana bodies. However, with the 100 refinement building's help, Midsummer was confident she could reach 115% completion rate. She might even be able to reach 120%, entering the ranks of peerless geniuses. In another combat room, Wu Xiaoxiao quickly started her assisted training as well, not daring to waste even a single moment. Wu Xiaoxiao understood very well that this was a massive fortuitous opportunity. Ever since she entered the Greater God's domain, she came to understand just how weak her isolated homeworld and its civilization was. To make matters worse, the greater world in reality was a cruel place that operated according to the rule of the jungle. Meanwhile, the only way to succeed in the greater world was to make significant achievements. Currently, the connection between her homeworld and the greater world had yet to fully form. So, she still had some time to prepare, and she needed to take advantage of every opportunity she could get her hands on. Otherwise, it would be too late to do anything if she waited until the passage to the greater world fully formed in reality, her homeworld to disintegrate, and everyone was forced to live in the greater world. It was true that people in the greater world could live for hundreds of years. Even ordinary civilians could expect an average lifespan of more than 200 years. However, there was a very limited number of towns and cities in the greater world, and these towns and cities could only accommodate a limited population. If people wished to live in these towns and cities, they would need to make a huge contribution of star coins every year. If a person couldn't earn enough star coins to live in a town or city, they would have no choice but to work as a scavenger, collecting various resources for food out in the wilderness every day. Not only did scavengers have to live shrouded in darkness, but few could live past 100 years old. Not to mention, she had many friends and relatives she couldn't abandon. These friends and relatives were all ignorant of the greater world's cruelty. Once their homeworld integrated with the greater world, it wouldn't matter how much money or influence they previously possessed in their homeworld. None of it would matter, and they would have to start from scratch in the greater world. Time flowed rapidly, and 3 days went by in the 100 refinement building in the blink of an eye. Inside one of the 100 refinement building's combat room, Shifeng sat cross-legged as he started his final assisted simulation. Subsequently, a translucent version of himself appeared before him. Then, his translucent doppelganger manipulated the magic arrays within its body one after another until every one of them were operating in sync. As soon as the doppelganger accomplished this, it seemingly became the ruler of this space, its every movement influencing the mana in the room. This method of control is incredible no matter how many times I look at it, Shifeng inwardly exclaimed when he saw his doppelganger displaying the method to manipulate a legendary mana body with a 120% completion rate. Advanced mana manipulation in God's domain could be achieved by constructing some simple magic arrays to manipulate a greater number of magic arrays. When players applied this mana manipulation method to their mana bodies, they could exhibit greater strength since their mana body could operate more magic arrays. However, the control method simulated by the 100 refinement building for a 120% legendary mana body was completely different. Instead of creating multiple simple magic arrays to control other magic arrays, the 100 refinement building solution was to create a natural magic array based entirely on the operating principles of mana. Meanwhile, this magic array functioned to resonate the various types of mana that existed, which would, in turn, automatically activate all of the magic arrays in the legendary mana body. The process was akin to granting life to the mana body. So long as this natural magic array was formed, there would be no need to deliberately manipulate the legendary mana body to keep it functioning. This was a method Shifeng had never thought of before. I've tried 354 times already. Regardless of whether I succeed or fail this time, I will have to leave for the ancient river secret land. After taking a deep breath, Shifeng began his 355th attempt at achieving a perfect mana body. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 305, Special Life Form. Chapter 305, Special Life Form. While letting the dense eternal energy in the room wrap around him, Shifeng began carefully recreating the natural magic array composed entirely of the various elements' operating principles. Although Shifeng had previously created a magic array based on the operating principles of dark mana in the stratified abyssal realm, the magic array was limited to only one type of mana. The natural magic array's complexity was at least 10 times greater in comparison. Even after referencing the 100 refinement building simulation 99 times and correcting his mistakes hundreds of times, Shifeng still couldn't get it right. Although I understand how I should arrange the various elements, getting them to where I want is a completely different story. If it weren't for this environment, I wouldn't even be able to finish arranging 1/10 of the various elements. Sweat rolled down Shifeng's forehead one drop after another as he arranged the various mana elements and watched the magic array in his mana body gradually forming. His current task felt 100 times more difficult than walking a tightrope on a 10,000-meter cliff. Every type of mana had its own characteristics and operating principles. So, every one of them had to be manipulated using a different method. In order to draw the complete magic array, he had to constantly switch between different manipulation methods. He couldn't just manipulate the various elements simultaneously using the same method. This meant he had to switch manipulation methods over 20 times every second. Even Grandmaster magicians would despair at such a challenge. Meanwhile, he had to keep up this constant switching throughout the entire process of drawing the magic array. If he made even the slightest mistake during this process, the magic array would crumble, and he would have to start all over again. 71%. 83%. 95%. When Shifeng was only 5% away from completing the magic array, he became even more careful with his control. The best result he achieved previously was 94%. Never did he manage to breach the 95% threshold. Because of this, he was left with no choice but to use his 100th and final simulation opportunity to further deepen his impression over the magic array. 96%. 97%. 98%. Shifeng forgot to even breathe when he sensed the magic array nearing completion. If he left the 100 refinement buildings environment, the difficulty of drawing the natural magic array would double. So, should he fail this attempt, he could, at most, push his legendary mana body's completion rate to 118%. Although 118% completion rate was already an incredible result and should be superior to even a 120% epic mana body, if he wanted a better future after reaching Tier 6, it was best if he perfected his legendary mana body. This meant having to remain at Tier 4 for a considerable amount of time. When Shifeng started working on the magic array's core, a change suddenly occurred to the various elements of mana's operating principles. As a result, he had to increase the number of manipulation methods he used each second from 24 to 30 to keep up with these changes. Although he had long since known about these changes, their arrival still put him in a bind. I must succeed. Sensing that the magic array was already 99% complete, Shifeng ramped up his focus even further to keep up with the changes. Boom! Shifeng's complexion had turned deathly white, and his exhausted expression made him look several years older. System, congratulations. Your legendary mana body has reached the 120% completion rate. You have become a special life form. System, you have become a special life form. Your maximum reaction speed is increased by 50%, physique is increased by 100%, concentration standard is increased by 1 level, stamina and concentration recovery rates are increased by 200%, and all basic attributes are increased by 50%. Special life form? Shifeng was stunned when he saw the system notification. Previously, His life rating was only equivalent to the archaic species standard of monsters, also known as a higher life form. This was also the limit for most players. As for special life forms, that was already the level of heroes and six-winged valkyries. After a brief surprise, Shifeng sensed the mana around him gradually condensing into a solid state. His mental state also improved significantly. In my current state, I can probably hold my ground even against bona fide Tier 5 legendary monsters. Shifeng smiled as he clenched his fists and executed a few simple punches, his fists leaving behind several overlapping afterimages and spatial cracks in their wake. Out of the various bonuses he received from becoming a special life form, the increase to his basic attributes was probably the most lackluster. A 50% increase in basic attributes might seem like a lot, but it was basically the equivalent of putting on an extra piece of fragmented legendary equipment that offered nothing but basic attributes. By itself, this bonus wasn't enough to let him achieve a qualitative improvement. His basic attributes would still be at the standard of superior mythic monsters of the same level. However, it was a different story for the increase in his concentration standard and his mana achieving a solid state. These two improvements had pushed him into the Tier 5 threshold. Now, even without upgrading Winter of Eternal Night to the legendary rank using Ancient Dragon's power, he could still exhibit a portion of a Tier 5 player's abilities. In short, Shifeng had already recovered 80% of the strength he had during his previous life. Although he still wasn't at his peak, he was already at a pseudo-peak state. This was far more important than a simple increase in basic attributes. At this time, he could even execute the third sword, Holy Annihilation, without putting significant stress on his mind. After resting for about an hour in the combat room, Shifeng looked at the time and thought, application for the rookie competition's preliminaries should have started already. It's about time to leave. When Shifeng stepped out of the combat room, the doors to Wu Xiaoxiao's and Midsummer's combat rooms remained shut. Evidently, the two were still in the middle of developing their mana bodies. After Shifeng waited for around half an hour, the gathering time he had agreed upon with Wu Xiaoxiao and Midsummer arrived. Right on time, the two girls exited their respective combat rooms, their faces showing great reluctance to part with their combat rooms. Shifeng wasn't surprised by the two's behavior. Instead, he smiled and asked, "How did it go?" The 100 Refinement Building in his previous life was a place countless experts sought to visit. Meanwhile, anyone who got the opportunity to enter the 100 Refinement Building would choose to stay the full 5 days even if they had long used up all 100 of their simulation opportunities. Unfortunately, as they were pressed for time, they had no choice but to limit their stay to just 3 days. Fortunately, 3 days was already enough for players to push their mana body development to its current limit. Although players could use their excess time in the 100 Refinement Building to train in their combat techniques, skills, and spells, the amount of improvement they could make in only 2 days was very limited. So, losing 2 days of training time wouldn't be a huge loss. Meanwhile, it was also evident that Wu Xiaoxiao and Midsummer had achieved significant growth during their 3 days in the 100 Refinement Building. Currently, the mana they radiated had already reached a fully liquid state, a vast improvement from their previous selves. The strength of their mana had also increased by a notable margin. Based on his experience, Shifeng was certain that Wu Xiaoxiao and Midsummer had already broken through the 115% threshold, reaching the standard of peerless geniuses in the ancient River Kingdom. However, after hearing Shifeng's question, Wu Xiaoxiao and Midsummer smiled at each other before answering. Secret. TL notes. 1. There's a reason why Shifeng is described to have a life rating at the standard of higher life forms. Recap from Chapter 161. In terms of life rating, primal life forms did not exceed higher life forms such as demidragons by much. Some primal life forms were even inferior to demidragons when it came to life rating. However, there was one aspect in which primal life forms had an insurmountable advantage over the higher life forms: world affinity. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 306, Divine Shield Bearer. Chapter 306, Divine Shield Bearer. The ancient river Secret Land was a majestic island floating in the void, and 10 temples measuring over 1,000 meters in height lined the island's edges. Currently, streaks of light were constantly descending onto the plazas outside these massive temples as players across the ancient river kingdom entered the secret land one after another. The majority of the players in the crowded plazas were youths under the age of 25. Among these youths, handsome men and beautiful women could be seen everywhere. At this time, many of the youths in one particular plaza had their attention focused on 3 people, 1 man and 2 women, standing in the corner of the plaza. The man had a plain appearance. In the greater god's domain, where handsome men could be found everywhere, the man's looks were rather ordinary. However, the 2 women standing next to the man were as eye-catching as the sun. Of the 2 women, one was a great beauty with silver hair and a sultry figure, while the other was a lovely beauty with a face as delicate as jade. Both women exuded a unique temperament, and those who saw them couldn't help but want to look at them more. What beautiful women! Could they be the heiresses of some corporation? I don't think so. Look at the man standing next to them. Would the heiresses of a corporation stand with someone like that? My guess is that they're the rookie geniuses of some hegemonic power. This novel is available on Hosted Novel. Rookie geniuses of a hegemonic power? It'd be great if I could get acquainted with them. Many young men started a hushed discussion among themselves as they looked at Shifeng's group of 3, their minds filled with curiosity toward the trio. The mana here is surprisingly thin. Its density doesn't even reach 1/10 of the outside world's. The gravity here is also several times that of the outside world. Even walking in this place will be a problem for the average Tier 4 player, Wu Xiaoxiao commented. She had long since grown used to being gawked at by other people, so she simply ignored the stares she received and calmly analyzed her surroundings. Even though there are so many people here, none of them seem affected by this environment. Sure enough, nobody participating in the rookie competition is simple. With the state of the mana and gravity in the ancient river secret land, players would need at least 1 fragmented legendary item or 1 full set of epic equipment equipped if they wanted to move unhindered here. They would also need to pair that equipment with control at the 3rd floor standard. However, fragmented legendary weapons and equipment remained precious even in the greater god's domain. The various powers would typically only give their core geniuses 1 or 2 fragmented legendary items. As for epic immortal equipment, they might not be as precious as fragmented legendary items, but they were still highly valuable. Yet, there were well over 100,000 players currently gathered in the plaza. Even if all of her homeworld's various powers joined forces, they couldn't even come close to mustering such a force. Moreover, these were only the players teleported to one of the ancient river secret land's temples. There were 10 such temples in the entire secret land. This is normal. It might only cost 10 units of 7 luminaries crystal to participate in the kingdom's rookie competition, but nobody will join the competition unless they are confident in their strength, Midsummer explained. This annual rookie competition is also the perfect place for rookie geniuses to market themselves to the various hegemonic powers and corporations. So long as they can get into the top 100, they can instantly become a reserve executive of one of the ancient River Kingdom's 6 ruling hegemonic powers and gain authority over a main guild city. Even if these rookie geniuses can't get into the top 100, so long as they perform excellently in the competition, they will still have a high chance of getting recruited by a hegemonic power or corporation. If they get lucky and become a corporation's core member, they will receive a big monthly salary and enter the upper echelon of the greater world's various cities. Realization dawned on Wu Xiaoxiao when she heard Midsummer's explanation. Had she not been fortunate enough to join the Green God Corporation, she would most likely be similar to these rookie geniuses in trying to market herself to attract the various hegemonic powers' attention. While Midsummer and Wu Xiaoxiao were talking, Shifeng turned his gaze to the center of the floating island. The fragment should be there, Shifeng thought, a hint of anticipation burning in his eyes when he sensed the fluctuations coming from the 7 Luminaries Codex inside his bag. The 7 Luminaries Codex had remained silent all this time. Yet, as soon as he entered the ancient river secret land, it immediately started to show a reaction. Although the Codex only gave him a vague hint of the fragment's location, he was certain the Codex's fragment was located in the heart of the island. Now, all he needed to do was advance to the rookie competition's top 100 and entered the island's central zone to search for the fragment. Just when Shifeng thought of analyzing the codex's fluctuations to narrow his search radius, a deep and powerful voice suddenly came from nearby. "Midsummer, Xiao Xiao. Why are you two here?" Subsequently, a group of 4 youths, 3 male and 1 female, approached Shifeng's group. All 4 of these youths were at level 139. On top of that, all 4 wore a gold leaf emblem on their chest, indicating that they were all 4th floor experts. Every one of them was also equipped with upwards of 2 fragmented legendary items, with the scholarly young man standing in the lead having 4 fragmented legendary items. The white jade square shield the scholarly young man carried was even of indiscernible rank. Commander Fury. Midsummer and Wu Xiaoxiao were greatly surprised when they saw this group of 4, especially when they saw the scholarly young man. Desolate Fury. He was the number 1 genius nurtured by the Purple Melody Alliance. Only, Desolate Fury and his group typically operated in the Myriad Forest Empire, which neighbored the ancient River Kingdom. Rarely would they return to the ancient River Kingdom. Desolate Fury was currently ranked 35th out of the Myriad Forest Empire's top 100 geniuses. Several upper-ranking hegemonic powers had already extended an olive branch to him because of his strength. Only, he had rejected every invitation he had received so far. At this time, though, Midsummer and Wu Xiaoxiao weren't the only ones to recognize Desolate Fury. Shifeng had also recognized the scholarly young man, the Myriad Forest Empire's divine shield-bearer. During Shifeng's previous life, Desolate Fury had single-handedly defended a city from more than 20 Tier 6 experts. Although he didn't manage to kill these Tier 6 experts, he had held them back for several hours until the Myriad Forest Empire's army arrived. Desolate Fury's fame also skyrocketed after that battle. As for the shield Desolate Fury wielded at the time, although it wasn't a real divine artifact, it was a highly accurate replica of a divine artifact. However, because news of the replica got out, Desolate Fury got targeted by Demon's Gate, an apex power. Not even the Myriad Forest Empire dared to go against Demon's Gate. Adding to the fact that Desolate Fury had limited strength as an individual, he eventually disappeared from the Greater God's domain, leaving many experts lamenting this situation. Midsummer, Xiao Xiao, you two have worried us sick. At this time, a bright young swordsman standing behind Desolate Fury hurriedly stepped forward and spoke up. We heard that you two offended Saint 3, and the Twin Saints Alliance is even hunting you now. How have you two been these past few days? We're fine, Vice Commander Chaser, Midsummer said, smiling. On the contrary, we've been having a great time these past few days. Since it's such a good coincidence that we met here, why don't you join our party? The bright youth named Lightning Chaser suggested, acting as if he didn't notice Shifeng's existence. That way, we can watch each other's backs during the competition and have an easier time entering the top 100. As soon as Lightning Chaser finished speaking, a slight frown formed on Desolate Fury's face. Their party of 4 had long since noticed Shifeng standing with Midsummer and Wu Xiaoxiao, so they knew that the 3 should be in the same party. Meanwhile, the kingdom's rookie competition only allowed players to form up to parties of 6 to help each other during the competition. The rookie competition's preliminaries consisted of numerous rounds. For each round, players would be randomly teleported into the island's inner zone in batches of 100, and they would have to fight each other until only 10 remained. This process would be repeated until only 100 players remained. Then, the competition's primaries would begin. Because of this system, the preliminaries would be a considerably long and arduous process. If players partied up before the competition, they would be put into the same batches during the preliminaries. This allowed them to cover each other's backs and increase their chances of survival. However, their party already had 4 members. If Midsummer and Wu Xiaoxiao joined, it would mean that Shifeng would be excluded. Although Desolate Fury had long known that Lightning Chaser was trying to woo Midsummer and Wu Xiaoxiao, he didn't expect Lightning Chaser to show so much hostility to Shifeng simply because Shifeng was standing with Midsummer and Wu Xiaoxiao. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 307, Peerless Duo. Chapter 307, Peerless Duo. As soon as Lightning Chaser finished speaking, the surrounding atmosphere instantly tensed up. Midsummer's and Wu Xiaoxiao's expressions turned a little ugly when they heard Lightning Chaser's words, chilly even. When the female cleric and male ranger on the same party as Lightning Chaser thought of dissuading the young swordsman and neutralizing this awkward situation, they suddenly noticed the lack of an adventurer's emblem on Shifeng, and they immediately kept their mouths shut. The greater god's domain was a world where the strong preyed upon the weak. Even if they helped resolve this awkward situation for Shifeng, so long as he remained with Midsummer and Wu Xiaoxiao, he would continue coming across similar situations afterward. After all, Midsummer and Wu Xiaoxiao possessed beauty and temperaments that could make even beautiful women grow envious. On top of that, Midsummer and Wu Xiaoxiao also possessed great talent. Even the heirs of the greater world's corporations would deem them worthy partners. Had Shifeng worn a golden leaf emblem, he could more or less stand on the same playing field as them. In that case, they could have considered doing him a favor and helping him out of this awkward situation. However, it simply wasn't worthwhile for them to offend Lightning Chaser, a titled expert, for someone who wasn't even at the 4th floor standard. Moreover, it was evident that Lightning Chaser was only behaving so arrogantly because he had noticed the lack of a golden leaf emblem on Shifeng. That won't be necessary, Vice Commander Chaser, Midsummer said, her voice taking on a chilly tone. She could naturally tell that Lightning Chaser intended to exclude Shifeng. We have already formed a party with Brother Black Flame. We don't need to join any other parties. As for Wu Xiaoxiao, she couldn't even be bothered to respond to Lightning Chaser. Midsummer had spent a considerable amount of time in the Purple Melody Alliance already. She also more or less belonged to the same generation as Lightning Chaser and Desolate Fury. So, she was obliged to humor them a little. However, it was a different story for Wu Xiaoxiao. She had only joined the Purple Melody Alliance recently. She wasn't familiar with Lightning Chaser, either. Black Flame. When Desolate Fury heard Midsummer mentioning Shifeng, he couldn't help but feel as if he had heard about it before. However, he failed to recall who exactly Shifeng was. Don't be so quick to refuse, Midsummer. I'm inviting you two into our party for your sakes, Lightning Chaser nonchalantly said. Then, he briefly glanced at Shifeng before turning back to Midsummer, smiling as he continued, the Twin Saints Alliance's Saint 3 is indignant over your actions, and the kingdom's various powers are all keeping their eyes out for you to get into Saint 3's good graces. The various powers experts will definitely target you two during the competition, so it's going to be very difficult for you two to get into the top 100 and attract the various corporations' attention. However, so long as you join our party, the various powers experts will more or less hold back out of respect for Commander Fury and me. This will greatly increase your chances of entering the top 100. Lightning Chaser was very confident in his party. Aside from Desolate Fury, Lightning Chaser was also one of the Myriad Forest Empire's top 100 geniuses. Specifically, he was ranked 98th. Saint 3 might not show them any respect, but the ancient River Kingdom's other powers would more or less have to respect them. Respect. Midsummer couldn't help but chuckle at Lightning Chaser's words. Xiao Xiao and I don't need your help. Moreover, Xiao Xiao and I aren't aiming for the top 100. You're not aiming for the top 100? Lightning Chaser was a little surprised. Now that Midsummer and Wu Xiaoxiao had angered Saint 3, their only hope of surviving his wrath was to get within the rookie competition's top 100. If they could get within the top 100, it would more or less deter the ancient River Kingdom's various powers from interfering in their feud with Saint 3. Dealing with the Twin Saints Alliance wouldn't be a problem, either. After all, the Purple Melody Alliance wasn't a pushover. So long as Midsummer and Wu Xiaoxiao could enter the rookie competition's top 100, the Alliance would definitely view them with much greater importance. The Alliance might even mobilize a Tier 6 Elder to protect them long-term. That's right. Our goal isn't to be in the top 100, Wu Xiaoxiao suddenly said. Instead, it is to get into the overall rankings top 10. Top 10. Lightning Chaser couldn't help but chuckle when he heard Wu Xiaoxiao's statement. Do you know what kind of people is competing for the top 10 spots, Xiao Xiao? Not even the commander can confidently say he can get into the top 10. Aside from Lightning Chaser, Even the female cleric and male ranger on his party couldn't help but shake their heads and chuckle at Wu Xiaoxiao's declaration. Although the rookie competition wasn't a direct competition of combat power but a competition to see who could survive the longest in the ancient river secret land's central zone instead, those seeking to get into the competition's top 10 would still need to have a certain degree of combat power. Wu Xiaoxiao and Midsummer could indeed be considered powerful experts in the ancient river kingdom. However, the rookie competition was a gathering of geniuses. In this competition, Wu Xiaoxiao could only be considered average. As for Midsummer, although she had already reached the 4th floor standard, it remained unknown whether she could even get into the preliminaries top 100. As for the top 10, when the female cleric and male ranger initially received the Purple Melody Alliance's priority training, they had indeed thought of themselves as the strongest geniuses in the ancient river kingdom. However, after participating in the kingdom's rookie competition time and again as well as fighting against the myriad Forest Empire's geniuses, they realized they were merely in a fool's dream. The truly peerless geniuses had never been fighting on the same level as they were since the very beginning. Evidently, the current Wu Xiaoxiao had yet to wake up from her fantasy. Setting all other factors aside, do you know what's the minimum your mana body's completion rate must be at if you wish to get into the top 10, Xiaoxiao? Lightning Chaser asked rhetorically. 115%. Moreover, this is only the bare minimum. In past competitions, the average completion rate of the top 10 rankers' mana bodies is 117%. 105%. And what about your mana body's completion rate? Is it at 105%? Or has it reached 110%? In Lightning Chaser's opinion, Wu Xiaoxiao was certainly talented. However, in her current state, she should hit her limit after reaching 110%. After all, it wasn't easy to develop an epic mana body. Take Midsummer, for example. Even after receiving plenty of resources from the Purple Melody Alliance, her epic mana body's completion rate remained at 110%. She'd have to thank the heavens if she could reach 112% in the future. It should be known that even Desolate Fury, the Purple Melody Alliance's #1 genius, had only developed his epic mana body to a completion rate of 116%. This was why Lightning Chaser had said that even Desolate Fury couldn't confidently say that he could get into the rookie competition's top 10. 105%. 110%. Wu Xiaoxiao smiled when she heard Lightning Chaser's guesses. Immediately afterward, the intensity of her aura increased by several times. The surrounding mana also swarmed her as if they had just found their home, causing the density of her surrounding mana to increase rapidly. Gas. Liquid. Even after the mana around Wu Xiaoxiao had thoroughly condensed into a liquid state, its density still did not stop increasing. Boom. Suddenly, the mana surrounding Wu Xiaoxiao seemingly exploded like a geyser as it shot into the sky, attracting everyone's attention. While this phenomenon was occurring, Wu Xiaoxiao calmly looked at Lightning Chaser and asked, "Take a guess and see what my mana body's completion rate is. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 308, Gap. Chapter 308, Gap 115%. Lightning Chaser couldn't help but be dumbfounded as he looked at the pillar of mana rising from Wu Xiaoxiao. In the greater god's domain, forming a pillar with one's mana was not a feat players could achieve with only a 110% epic mana body. Typically, players would need an epic mana body that had reached a 115% completion rate to accomplish such a feat 115%. This was the goal countless geniuses in the greater god's domain sought to achieve. Even Lightning Chaser, a top 100 genius in the Myriad Forest Empire, had only managed to develop his epic mana body to a completion rate of 114% thus far. Moreover, he was already stuck at this threshold for many months and wasn't even certain if he could ever break into the 115% threshold in the future. Every 5% of a mana body's completion rate was a major threshold. The 115% threshold was even a monumental threshold that separated geniuses from peerless geniuses. So long as a genius could develop an epic mana body to a completion rate of 115%, they would become a hot commodity for the various hegemonic powers. Some corporations might even extend an olive branch to them. This was because only peerless geniuses could create a powerful mana body and gain strength rivaling NPC demigods when they got promoted to Tier 5 in the future. Some of the more powerful peerless geniuses could even fight against Tier 6 divine monsters without the help of any legendary weapons or equipment. So long as these peerless geniuses reached Tier 6, every one of them would become a highly influential figure in the greater god's domain. They would also stand far above ordinary Tier 6 experts. "No, it's not 115%, Desolate Fury suddenly said. Even he had needed a moment to react to this unexpected development. Her mana body's completion rate should have already reached the legendary 120%. 120%. Lightning Chaser couldn't help but doubt his ears when he heard Desolate Fury's words. "Are you joking with me, Commander? How long had it been since Wu Xiaoxiao joined the Purple Melody Alliance?" It should be known that Wu Xiaoxiao hadn't even reached Tier 4 when she joined the alliance. Her combat standard also wasn't at the third floor standard at the time. Yet, now, he was being told that Wu Xiaoxiao had already developed her epic mana body to the legendary 120%. The female cleric and male ranger were similarly shocked by this revelation. An epic mana body with a 120% completion rate was akin to a legend in the greater god's domain. Even Saint 3, a genius highly regarded by the ancient River Kingdom's various powers, had only managed to develop his epic mana body to a 119% completion rate thus far. There might only be a 1% difference between 119% and 120%, but the actual gap was like heaven and earth. One could only remain a peerless genius in a kingdom, while the other would be regarded as a legend in the greater god's domain. "There should be no mistake," Desolate Fury said definitively as he looked at the mana pillar roughly 100 meters tall. "The last time I met Saint 3, the mana pillar he revealed only reached a height of roughly 60 meters, and he wasn't holding back at the time. Aside from her mana body's completion rate reaching 120%, I can't think of any other explanation for why her mana pillar can reach such a height. Mana was greatly restricted in the greater god's domain, so extending a mana domain was extremely challenging for players. Getting mana to expand naturally and explosively was also an incredibly difficult task. Normally, even with a 115% epic mana body, a player could, at best, produce a mana pillar of roughly 20 meters in height. Afterward, each subsequent increase of 1% in completion rate would result in a height increase of around 10 meters. So, even if Wu Xiaoxiao's epic mana body was at a 119% completion rate, it shouldn't be possible for her to produce a mana pillar that reached 100% meters in height. However, it was a different story if her mana body was at the legendary 120% completion rate. The mana body would undergo a qualitative transformation every 5%, so if Wu Xiaoxiao's mana body had reached the 120% completion rate, it would make sense that she could produce such a tall mana pillar. Meanwhile, the appearance of Wu Xiaoxiao's mana pillar also startled the other players in the plaza. A mana pillar. Her mana body's completion rate has reached 115%. You country bumpkin. Can you not see how tall that mana pillar is? Do you think that's something a 115% mana body can produce? Heavens! That mana pillar's nearly 100 meters tall. A legend. She's a legend. I can't believe I get to see a legend in person. Holy crap. A 120% mana body. Who is this beauty? Many of the players present failed to comprehend the situation even after seeing the spectacular mana pillar that rose nearly 100 meters into the sky. However, when some of the more well-informed players saw the mana pillar, their eyes nearly fell out of their sockets. At the same time, they also wondered if Wu Xiaoxiao was the paragon of some upper-ranking hegemonic power or a paragon nurtured internally by a conglomerate. Wu Xiaoxiao? Isn't she one of the people who had offended Saint 3? An expert with a master-ranked identification skill quickly uncovered Wu Xiaoxiao's information, and he couldn't help but be shocked by what he saw. Wasn't she supposed to be a newcomer in the Purple Melody Alliance? A 120% epic mana body. Madness. This is madness. Why is the Purple Melody Alliance staying silent toward Saint Three's behavior? How can Purple Melody treat such a peerless paragon like this? A corporation's observer wore an incredulous look on his face as he looked at the mana rising from Wu Xiaoxiao. This won't do. I have to meet with the president right away. We must pull this talent into the corporation before the upper-ranking hegemonic powers learn about her. At the same time, the hidden observers of several other corporations and hegemonic powers also promptly contacted their superiors, afraid they would miss this perfect opportunity to recruit Wu Xiaoxiao. A legend. So long as Wu Xiaoxiao was nurtured properly, she would definitely become a big shot capable of standing at the very top of the greater god's domain. The amount of assistance she could provide to a power would surpass even an entire elementary god's domain. After all, only Tier 6 experts of such caliber could have any speaking rights near the heart of the greater god's domain. While all of this was taking place, Midsummer looked at Lightning Chaser's dazed expression and smiled, asking, "Do we have the qualifications to compete for the top 10 spots now, Vice Commander Chaser?" "We." Lightning Chaser snapped out of his daze and looked at Midsummer. Then, realization seemingly dawned upon he asked with a stunned expression, "Don't tell me you are also." Lightning Chaser knew that Midsummer would always speak concisely. She would never use words indiscriminately. If Wu Xiaoxiao was the only person to have developed her epic mana body to a 120% completion rate, Midsummer would, at most, say that Wu Xiaoxiao could compete for the top 10 spots. Yet, Midsummer had used the word we. In other words, aside from Wu Xiaoxiao, Midsummer had also developed her mana body to 120%. 120% epic mana bodies? Was this possible? Looking at Lightning Chaser's stunned expression, Midsummer revealed a wicked smile and slowly said, "What do you think? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 309, Rookie Competition Begins. Chapter 309, Rookie Competition Begins. Impossible. This is impossible. When Lightning Chaser saw Midsummer's smile, his mind instantly went into denial, thinking that Midsummer must be fooling him. Midsummer was not Wu Xiaoxiao. Wu Xiaoxiao was a newcomer who had only recently joined the Purple Melody Alliance. He didn't have a particularly good understanding of Wu Xiaoxiao, so even though he found it shocking that she was talented enough to develop a 120% epic mana body, it wasn't outside the realm of possibilities. However, Midsummer had joined the Purple Melody Alliance in roughly the same generation as he did. They were former rivals, so he understood her talent and standards well. Even developing an epic mana body with a 115% completion rate was impossible for her, let alone one with the legendary 120% completion rate. It had only been some days since they had last met. There was no way he would believe that Midsummer had managed to refine her epic mana body to a 120% completion rate in such a short time. Not even in her dreams would this be possible. While Lightning Chaser was stuck in a cycle of confusion and denial, a threefold magic array suddenly appeared above the temple. The magic array was massive, covering not only the temple but also the entire plaza outside the temple. Immediately afterward, some players in the plaza received a system notification. System: Participant 1,642,762, the preliminaries will begin soon. Please enter the designated teleportation magic array in the order of your number. The preliminaries have started, Midsummer. Let's head over, Shifeng said to Midsummer after looking at the system notification before him. Then, he walked to one of the several dozen magic arrays that had appeared in the middle of the plaza, showing no interest whatsoever in Lightning Chaser's thoughts. Midsummer nodded in response. Then, ignoring Lightning Chaser, she bid Desolate Fury, the female cleric, and the male ranger goodbye before running after Shifeng. She dares to ignore me. Lightning Chaser immediately felt anger rising within him when he saw Midsummer leaving. As one of the peerless geniuses nurtured by the Purple Melody Alliance, he had a limitless future ahead of him. Normally, countless female players would flock to him. Although Midsummer was talented, she wasn't unique. Several of his female admirers could easily match her. Yet, now, Midsummer had chosen to ignore him. You ignored her friend, So it's only natural she will take such an attitude with you, Desolate Fury said, rolling his eyes. You've gone too far this time. You might have finally gained the Extreme Eagle Corporation's recognition and become an official successor, but Midsummer's future achievements and status definitely wouldn't be beneath yours. The female cleric and male ranger nodded, agreeing with Desolate Fury's words. Lightning Chaser indeed possessed very high status in the real world. Previously, his status as one of the Extreme Eagle Corporation's young masters was already enough to cause many hegemonic powers to fawn over him. Now that he had become one of the Extreme Eagle Corporation's official successors, his status in the real world had risen even further. However, the Ancient River Kingdom's rookie competition this year differed from past rookie competitions. It was one of the grandest rookie competitions the kingdom had ever held in its long history. Meanwhile, this was all because of the Galaxy Conglomerate, one of the Starlight Realm's top conglomerate. The Galaxy Conglomerate had recently announced an assembly to all kingdoms and empires in the Starlight Realm. This assembly was targeted at young Tier 4 and Tier 5 experts under the age of 35, and the conglomerate intended to extend its invitation to 300 players of each tier of the two tiers. For those fortunate enough to receive an invitation, not only would they gain the Galaxy Conglomerate's precious silver membership, but they could also gain permanent access to Galaxy City, which was the Starlight Realm's holy land for business and the Galaxy Corporation's main headquarters. Setting aside Galaxy City, a place where countless players sought to enter, just the opportunity to acquire the Galaxy Conglomerate's silver membership was already enough to tempt countless players into action. In the real world, anyone who possessed the Galaxy Conglomerate's silver membership could essentially waltz around in the greater world's various cities as if they owned the place. Even then, the various corporations based in these cities would still have to show them a certain degree of respect. Under normal circumstances, even the helmsmen of corporations would have to go through great difficulties to acquire the Galaxy Conglomerate's silver membership. Yet, the Galaxy Conglomerate was giving away 600 silver membership slots for its assembly this time. One could easily imagine how intense the competition to join the assembly would be. However, according to insider information their party received, anyone who managed to get into the top 20 of the Ancient River Kingdom's rookie competition this time could skip the preliminaries to join the assembly and get promoted straight into the official competition. This was a huge boon to Tier 4 players seeking to obtain the Galaxy Conglomerate's silver membership. It should be known that the Starlight Realm was massive. Setting aside the many gods' domains that existed in the Starlight Realm, just the kingdoms and empires in the realm numbered over 1,000. So, nobody knew how many under 35 Tier 4 experts there were in the Starlight Realm. The Tier 4 players participating in the Ancient River Kingdom's rookie competition this time consisted of only a small portion of the kingdom's Tier 4 youths. Even so, the number of participants had still exceeded 1 million. As for the other Tier 4 youths, they had already participated in past rookie competitions and joined the various powers, so they no longer needed to participate in the rookie competition. However, once the Galaxy Conglomerate's official selection began, it wouldn't even be strange to see over 10 million participants coming from the Ancient River Kingdom. 1,000 kingdoms would mean 10 million participants. Not to mention, there were still the bigger and stronger empires. Yet, the Tier 4 category of the Galaxy Conglomerate's official competition would only be open to 100,000 participants. After deducting the slots reserved for the various kingdoms and empires, there wouldn't be many left for those participating in the preliminaries. If players couldn't get their hands on any of the various kingdoms and empires' reserve slots, the difficulty of getting into the official competition would increase exponentially. Meanwhile, it was precisely because they had received insider information about the Galaxy Conglomerate's plans for the Ancient River Kingdom's rookie competition that their party had come to participate in a competition that normally wouldn't benefit them. Now that the completion rate of Midsummer's mana body had already reached 120%, she could absolutely achieve excellent results in the Galaxy Corporation's official selection. And if she were lucky and got into the top 300, her status would instantly skyrocket. At that time, even the Extreme Eagle Conglomerate would have to show her respect. So what if her mana body's completion rate has reached 120%? Lightning Chaser curled his lips in disdain. She might receive significant improvements from it, but whether she can even get into the top 20 remains uncertain. Surprisingly, Desolate Fury did not rebuke Lightning Chaser's words this time. As Lightning Chaser said, it remained uncertain whether Midsummer could even get into the rookie competition's top 20, let alone the top 10. This was because even a mana body that had reached a 120% completion rate could only provide players with a limited increase in strength. Rather than a representation of strength, a 120% mana body was more of a representation of a player's future potential. If it was before the Galaxy conglomerate had announced its assembly a month ago, Midsummer would have had a very good chance at entering the rookie competition's top 10. However, because of the Galaxy conglomerate's announcement and its subsequent arrangement for the rookie competition, many geniuses from the neighboring kingdoms and empires had also come to compete for the rookie competition's top 20 positions. This situation drastically increased the rookie competition's intensity. The competition was so fierce that even Desolate Fury wasn't confident he could get into the top 20. While Desolate Fury and Lightning Chaser were talking, the female cleric standing beside them looked up at translucent magic mirrors that had appeared above the plaza. Then, she suddenly pointed at one of the mirrors and said, "Commander, Midsummer seems to have gotten into a precarious situation." Shown in the magic mirror the cleric pointed at was Midsummer in her icy blue robe. Aside from Midsummer, another player was shown in the same mirror, and this player was a titled expert from the Myriad Forest Empire. TL notes, made some changes in Chapter 294, original, Icy-green robe and icy-green hat changed, icy-blue robe and icy-blue hat. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 310, One Finger to Bring Down the Heavens. Chapter 310, One Finger to Bring Down the Heavens. This is indeed a tricky situation. I didn't think she would meet Ocean Breeze of all people. Desolate Fury was greatly surprised when he saw the young knight displayed in the same magic mirror as Midsummer. Ocean Breeze, the Knight of Thousand Winds, ranked 50th in combat power among the Myriad Forest Empire's young experts. Although his rank wasn't as high as Desolate Fury's, he was an anti-magic knight, the bane of all magical classes. The anti-magic knight was a peak class that could unleash an anti-magic domain. Within his anti-magic domain, all magic arrays would lose effect. It was a powerful counter against magical classes that relied mainly on spells to attack. The anti-magic domain would have been considered a perfect ability if not for its limited range. When used in the Greater Gods domain, a Tier 4 anti-magic knight could only extend their anti-magic domain up to a 50-yard radius. So long as magical class players stayed outside the anti-magic domain's range, they could freely cast their spells, and there'd be nothing the anti-magic knight could do about it. However, to make up for his anti-magic domain's lack of range, Ocean Breeze had learned an advanced silver footwork. With the help of this footwork, it was practically impossible for any Tier 4 magical class player within his sight to keep their distance from him. Ha ha ha. I already said she won't get into the top 20. Lightning Chaser couldn't help but laugh when he looked at the magic mirror hovering in the air. Although he knew that Midsummer had incredible potential and could perhaps achieve a higher status than he could in the future, his mood brightened significantly when he saw that Midsummer was going to get disqualified in the first round of the preliminaries. Moreover, so long as Midsummer failed to get into the rookie competition's top 20, her chances of getting into the Galaxy conglomerate's official competition would become very slim. If Midsummer failed to become a silver member of the Galaxy conglomerate, he would have plenty of opportunities to get his hands on her. After all, he knew Midsummer's real identity. With the Extreme Eagle Corporation's strength, there'd be nothing Midsummer and her family could do to resist him. While Desolate Fury's party members were talking among themselves, the other experts in the plaza also turned their attention to Midsummer's fight. Isn't that beauty the companion of that legend just now? She has quite the rotten luck to meet the Knight of Thousand Winds right off the bat. It seems she's going to get disqualified on the very first round. You can't really say she has bad luck. Many experts in the ancient River Kingdom are currently targeting her because of Saint 3. Even if she didn't come across Ocean Breeze this round, everyone she comes across would most likely make her a priority target. You might be right, but getting disqualified in the first round is still a little miserable. I wonder if Ocean Breeze will show mercy. I heard that players he kills would typically have their souls put into a weakened state for half a month. If that beauty gets put out of commission for such a long period, she'll most likely miss the Galaxy Conglomerate's assembly. You expect the Knight of Thousand Winds to show mercy? Are you dreaming? Ocean Breeze and Saint 3 are good friends. He might show mercy to others, but he definitely won't do so for that beauty. He's good friends with Saint 3? But Wu Xiaoxiao is a legend with an immeasurable future, while that beauty looks like she is close to Wu Xiaoxiao. Will Ocean Breeze really be dumb enough to offend a legend for Saint 3? The various hegemonic powers experts in the plaza engaged in an enthusiastic discussion as they looked at the magic mirror displaying Midsummer's battle. After Wu Xiaoxiao had revealed her 120% epic mana body, the various hegemonic powers experts present conducted a thorough investigation of her background. So, they knew about the conflict Wu Xiaoxiao's group had with Saint 3. Originally, everyone had planned on doing Wu Xiaoxiao a favor during the preliminaries by ignoring Midsummer and Shifeng should they come across these two people. However, it would seem that their hopes of doing the legend a favor might be dashed soon. Out of all the people Midsummer could have encountered, she just had to meet Ocean Breeze, Saint 3's close friend. Now, whether Midsummer could pass the preliminaries first round depended entirely on Ocean Breeze's attitude. While the spectating participants in the plaza were engaged in their discussion over Midsummer, Ocean Breeze equipped the axe and square shield he carried on his back and slowly walked toward Midsummer, continuously closing the distance between them. 100 yards. 80 yards. 70 yards. You are terribly unlucky to meet me in the first round, little beauty, Ocean Breeze said, chuckling as he looked at Midsummer, who quietly stood ahead of him. Originally, I was planning on getting rid of that Wu Xiaoxiao permanently to get Saint 3 to owe me a huge favor. I didn't think I would meet you first. Moreover, it seems your mana body's completion rate is also quite high. It should be above 115% already, right? In that case, I'll give you two options. The first option is to tell me Wu Xiaoxiao's real identity. Do that, and I will only heavily injure you. I won't annihilate your soul, and you won't have to waste all the effort you've put into developing your mana body. The second option is to restart a new account. Take your pick. Soul annihilation? Midsummer was a little surprised when she heard Ocean Breeze's words. Soul annihilation abilities were normally available to only Tier 5 existences or above. She didn't think Ocean Breeze would possess such a frightening ability at Tier 4. You can only blame yourself for having poor luck. It was only a few days ago that I fully grasped my soul annihilation ability. Although this ability is useless against Tier 5 and Tier 6 players, it is enough against Tier 4 players, Ocean Breeze said, nodding in delight. Soul annihilation abilities were powerful abilities that Tier 5 and Tier 6 experts used against lower-tiered players. However, because many kingdoms and empires prohibited high-tiered players from taking action against low-tiered players, the significance of soul annihilation abilities fell significantly in the greater god's domain. However, it was a different story for him. Thanks to his anti-magic knight class, he had grasped a soul annihilation ability at Tier 4, and it was even effective against players of the same tier. This was why the paragons of many kingdoms and empires would try to befriend him. Ocean Breeze admitted that an epic mana body with a 120% completion rate might be frightening. However, he could also tell that Wu Xiaoxiao didn't have very high combat standards. So, he guessed that Wu Xiaoxiao simply got lucky and developed her mana body to the legendary completion rate. As long as he could destroy Wu Xiaoxiao once, she would no longer be a threat to anyone. I have poor luck. When Midsummer saw that Ocean Breeze was close to moving within 50 yards of her, she suddenly smiled. Do you think you are very lucky? As soon as Midsummer finished speaking, the intensity of her aura and the density of the mana surrounding her suddenly skyrocketed. In the blink of an eye, a towering mana pillar rose from her. A 100-meter mana pillar? Ocean Breeze was stunned when he saw the mana pillar rising from Midsummer. Then, he looked at Midsummer in disbelief and asked, "You are also a legend?" He had already found it shocking when he saw Wu Xiaoxiao revealing herself as a legend. He didn't think that Midsummer, an ordinary member of the Purple Melody Alliance, would also be a legend. With this, He had seen 2 legends on the same day. Others would probably think he was crazy if he told them about this. However, Ocean Breeze quickly recovered from his surprise and contemptuously, saying, "You have indeed surprised me, but death remains the only outcome awaiting you." He would definitely be experiencing a huge headache right now if Midsummer wasn't a magical class player. Unfortunately for Midsummer, there was no changing reality. Not only was Midsummer a Tier 4 Great Wizard, but there were also only 55 yards separating them right now. So long as he took one step forward, Midsummer would be within his anti-magic domain, and he could do whatever he wanted with her. After saying so, Ocean Breeze took a step forward, intending to put Midsummer within his anti-magic domain. "Is that so?" As if to mock Ocean Breeze, Midsummer allowed the Knight of Thousand Winds to move within 50 yards of her while she pointed at the sky. Subsequently, a huge tear in space appeared in the sky and spewed gigantic fireballs out one after another, the fireballs covering a radius of over 500 yards. Silent cast twofold Tier 4 curse, Starfire Shower. Boom. When the fireballs made contact with the ground, they instantly turned the battlefield into a sea of fire, the flames so bright their glow could be seen from across the entire island. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 311, Sword Drawn, Souls Gone. Chapter 311, Sword Drawn, Souls Gone. When Midsummer's Starfire Shower descended, all magic mirrors above the plaza radiated a blinding glow, preventing anyone from looking at them directly. However, when the blinding light faded, what everyone saw shocked them to the core. The Knight of Thousand Winds. The Knight of Thousand Winds got killed in one move? Crazy. This is crazy. I must be dreaming. Not only does she have a 120% mana body, but she also silent cast a twofold Tier 4 curse. Who is she? Everyone in the plaza couldn't keep their mouths closed when they saw the outcome displayed in the magic mirror keeping track of Midsummer's battle. Not just Wu Xiaoxiao, but even Midsummer had a mana body that had reached the legendary 120% completion rate. Moreover, the combat prowess Midsummer displayed was utterly astounding. It should be known that Ocean Breeze, the Knight of Thousand Winds, was not only a genius who ranked 50th in the Myriad Forest Kingdom's first-generation rankings, but due to his class, he was also the bane of all magical classes. Yet, he had died to a magical class player in one move. With such strength, Midsummer could already be put on the same level as the ancient River Kingdom's 10 great paragons. She silent cast a twofold Tier 4 curse? Desolate Fury was similarly shocked when he saw Midsummer's performance. Currently, the area 5 yards ahead of Midsummer had already transformed into a lava hell. The high temperatures of this field of lava were so high that even Tier 5 players would rapidly lose HP while standing in it and transform into a charred corpse in just a little more than 10 seconds. However, the power of Midsummer's attack wasn't what shocked Desolate Fury, since Tier 4 curses originally possessed the power of Tier 5 spells already. Not to mention, the Tier 4 curse Midsummer used was even under the large-scale destruction spell category, and spells under this category were strategic level spells in God's domain. Rather than the curse's power, what shocked Desolate Fury was the way Midsummer had cast her Starfire Shower. Tier 4 curse-ranked destruction spells were rarely used in 1 vs 1 PvP situations due to their overly long casting times. If a player wasn't capable of silent casting, it'd be incredibly foolish to even try to use such a curse. However, so long as a player could silent cast such a curse, even titled experts of the same tier would fall if they weren't careful. As for twofold Tier 4 curses, if a player could silent cast one, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to call them a moving disaster. A silent cast Tier 4 curse would be weaker than a Tier 4 curse that was cast normally, so it wasn't impossible for a Tier 4 titled expert to try and defend against it. However, a silent cast twofold Tier 4 curse was something not even titled experts could defend against. This was because the moment they blocked the first Tier 4 curse, the second Tier 4 curse would immediately follow. With the limitations of a Tier 4 player's strength, there was no way a Tier 4 player could react in time before they got hit by the second Tier 4 curse. Typically, when Tier 4 players were going up against an expert capable of silent casting twofold Tier 4 curses, Their only option was to put as much distance between themselves and the caster as possible. It was simply impossible for a Tier 4 player to react to such an attack at close range. Hence, Tier 4 experts capable of silent casting twofold Tier 4 curses were regarded as nigh invincible among Tier 4 players. Of course, silent casting a twofold Tier 4 curse was incredibly difficult. Even among titled experts, only a small minority of magical class paragons could accomplish it. Not only did accomplishing such a feat require the caster to have an extremely high affinity with mana, but the caster would also need a considerably high mastery over the various elements of mana. These were harsh requirements that most Tier 4 players would find impossible to meet. Damn it! Damn it! When Lightning Chaser saw Midsummer's goddess-like appearance displayed in the magic mirror, a hint of madness appeared in his eyes. Why is she in the same party with that guy? If it weren't for that insignificant bastard, Midsummer would have never behaved so indifferently to me. It's all that bastard's fault. The combination of a 120% epic mana body and the ability to silent cast a twofold Tier 4 curse was enough to place Midsummer at the top of even the Myriad Forest Empire. She would be put on the same level as the Empire's paragons, and even the various upper-ranking hegemonic powers would fight to recruit her. The status she could gain would surpass his status as a corporation's potential successor. Originally, this beautiful and talented goddess could have been his. Yet, now, he had missed the opportunity to obtain her. When Lightning Chaser thought up to this point, his gaze turned toward the magic mirror displaying Shifeng's figure, his eyes filled with envy and killing intent as he watched Shifeng walking in a forest. He, an official successor of the Extreme Eagle Corporation, had lost to some nobody. Moreover, this nobody didn't even have a golden leaf emblem. If this nobody were to talk out on the streets, an ordinary beauty wouldn't even glance at him. Shortly after Lightning Chaser started watching Shifeng, his blood pressure spiked again. Currently, displayed in the magic mirror were Shifeng and Wu Xiaoxiao walking together. However, every expert the two came across was dealt with by Wu Xiaoxiao. Although Wu Xiaoxiao wasn't as strong as Midsummer, she could still silent casting Tier 4 curses, so her combat power was comparable to titled experts. Meanwhile, throughout this entire time, Shifeng only watched from the side and quietly waited to get promoted through the round. However, what Lightning Chaser couldn't stomach the most was that Shifeng was chatting merrily with Wu Xiaoxiao. The bastard was utterly shameless. At this time, Lightning Chaser wasn't the only person directing feelings of anger and jealousy at Shifeng. Many young men in the plaza also started to behave this way toward Shifeng. Not only was Shifeng acquainted with two goddess-like individuals, but they even shared a close relationship, evidenced by how they interacted with one another. Subsequently, as time passed, fewer players remained in the various regions of the preliminaries first round. At some point, the various youths watching Shifeng's and Wu Xiaoxiao's actions suddenly laughed. Ha ha ha. Now that the goddess is pinned down by a titled expert, let's see what that bastard will do. He has to go up against 3 fourth-floor experts simultaneously. That bastard is definitely going to embarrass himself in front of the goddess. Bets are open. Guess how many seconds that kid can last. How many seconds? Aren't you overestimating that guy? He only survived until now because he was lucky enough to get acquainted with the two goddesses. However, his luck ends here. With 3 fourth-floor experts as his opponents, the fight will end in 1 second. When the spectating participants saw 3 young men wearing golden leaf emblems slowly closing in on Shifeng, they couldn't help but grow excited. It was especially so for Lightning Chaser. Quickly get rid of him. Let Midsummer and Wu Xiaoxiao see just how weak he is. Lightning Chaser muttered excitedly as he looked at the magic mirror. So what if Shifeng got to be in the same party as Midsummer and Wu Xiaoxiao? He was merely an ant who hadn't even reached the World Tower's 4th floor. In the end, he was still going to get disqualified. Black Flame. When Desolate Fury looked at Shifeng's figure displayed in the magic mirror, he muttered to himself, "Why do I keep feeling as if I've seen him before? How could you possibly have met that kid before, Commander? He's merely an ant who doesn't even have a golden leaf. You normally only interact with the Myriad Forest Empire's peerless geniuses. That kid can't possibly be one of those peerless geniuses, right?" Lightning Chaser said, scoffing. While Lightning Chaser was speaking, the 3 fourth floor experts displayed in the magic mirror sneered and began their offensive on Shifeng. However, as if they wanted to toy with Shifeng in front of Wu Xiaoxiao, they deliberately slowed down their movements. Then, when they were within 10 yards of Shifeng, all 3 attacked Shifeng simultaneously, one slashing with a long sword, another smashing with a war hammer, and another stabbing with a pair of daggers. Even though the 3 youths were already holding back, which was evidenced by their lack of skill usage, the speed and frequency of their attacks were still too much for ordinary Tier 4 players to keep up with. Moreover, all 3 of them attacked from Shifeng's blind spots. When the 3 youths' attacks were within 1 yard of reaching their target, Shifeng, who had remained motionless all this time, suddenly moved. Draw, swing, sheath. Shifeng executed 3 simple movements, nearly in slow motion, in the eyes of the spectating participants. However, even though Shifeng's movements were slow and gentle, the 3 fourth floor experts failed to react to his movements. Or, more specifically, as if their bodies became frozen in time, the 3 youths stopped moving altogether and simply allowed Shifeng's sword to cut across their necks. Even until their HP had fallen to 0, the 3 did not show the slightest bit of resistance. The spectators were dumbfounded when they saw this, and silence enveloped the entire plaza. What just happened? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 312, Azura Sword Emperor? Chapter 312, Azura Sword Emperor? No. Impossible. Lightning Chaser couldn't believe his eyes when he saw the 3 fourth floor experts in the magic mirror collapsing to the ground. Shifeng had not only killed 3 fourth floor experts in one move, but he had also done so without using any skills or combat techniques. All he did was swing his sword. 4th floor experts were not cabbages that could be found everywhere. They would be regarded as powerful experts in any city. Unless there was an overwhelming gap in basic attributes, even titled experts would need to put in some effort to kill an ordinary 4th floor expert. After all, experts of this caliber would have all factors within their immediate vicinity under their control. They could also make perfect predictions of their opponent's attacks and take the necessary countermeasures. Unless they were targeted by a powerful AoE attack that couldn't be dodged, there was no way they could be killed instantly. Yet, 3 4th floor experts were killed by Shifeng, an ant who didn't have a golden leaf emblem, with only 1 slash. Even dreams would be more believable than this situation. This situation was so unbelievable that Lightning Chaser couldn't help but suspect if the 3 4th floor youths were paid actors. Otherwise, why would they stand still and do nothing as Shifeng killed them? Lightning Chaser wasn't the only person to have such thoughts. Many of the spectating participants in the plaza also thought as such. Aside from the 3 youths being actors hired by Shifeng, they couldn't think of any other reason to explain this bewildering situation. While the spectators were speculating whether the 3 youths were paid actors hired by Shifeng, the expression of the young male assassin fighting Wu Xiaoxiao turned ashen as he looked at Shifeng. He has a Tier 5 physique. Although this assassin youth spoke under his breath, his voice was conveyed clearly through the magic mirror, and his speculation shocked the spectating crowd. Tier 5 physique. Could he have a piece of legendary equipment equipped? No wonder. No wonder those 3 failed to even react. There's no way Tier 4 players can keep up with a Tier 5 physique's reaction speed. Legendary equipment. Could he be from an upper-ranking hegemonic power? Everyone participating in the rookie competition was a genius among the ancient River Kingdom's younger generation. Although they had yet to get promoted to Tier 5, they understood the significance of having a Tier 5 physique. Invincibility among Tier 4. Indeed, this was true invincibility among Tier 4. Players would see a huge improvement in various parameters for every tier they climbed in God's domain. It was especially true for their physique. The stronger a player's physique, the higher their reaction speed's limit would be. If one compared the reaction speed limits of an ordinary Tier 4 expert and a Tier 4 titled expert, the difference would only be about the same as the gap between the Tier 3 and Tier 4 standard, which was a relatively small gap. It was just that titled experts were much better at pushing their reaction speeds to their limit, with some even capable of keeping their reaction speed at maximum at all times. In contrast, ordinary Tier 4 experts couldn't even push their reaction speeds to their limit. Hence, even after setting aside factors such as equipment and basic attributes, there was still a massive gap in combat performance between ordinary experts and titled experts. However, the difference between having a Tier 4 physique and a Tier 5 physique would create a much bigger gap in reaction speeds. It was basically a difference between 1 and 2. In the time it took a Tier 4 titled expert to execute one attack, a Tier 5 expert could execute 2 attacks. In other words, should the two clash, the Tier 4 titled expert would only be halfway to completing their defensive maneuver when the Tier 5 expert had already completed their attack. The Tier 4 titled expert's body simply couldn't keep up with the speed of the Tier 5 player's attack. Just this point alone made it impossible for most Tier 4 players to go up against Tier 5 players. This was also why transcending tiers was such a difficult feat in God's domain. If players wished to fight opponents of a higher tier in God's domain, especially at the higher tiers, they'd need to have a legendary weapon or equipment. Either that or Hall of Fame level fragmented legendary equipment, at the very least. Otherwise, attempting such a challenge would be no different than committing suicide. Damn it. He's nothing but an ant who doesn't even have a golden leaf emblem. How can he have a piece of legendary equipment? Lightning Chaser went mad with jealousy as he looked at Shifeng in the magic mirror. Legendary weapons and equipment served as foundations for the greater God's domain's various powers. They were so rare and precious that even the Tier 6 experts of hegemonic powers wouldn't necessarily have one. So, how could an ant who couldn't even conquer the World Tower's 4th floor own one? Even though Lightning Chaser had already become an official successor of the Extreme Eagle Corporation, the corporation would only assign a legendary weapon or equipment to him after he had gotten promoted to Tier 5. He couldn't get his hands on one at Tier 4 even if he wanted to. After all, legendary weapons and equipment were extremely precious. Any one of them could be used to create a powerhouse capable of transcending tiers. Only after players had reached Tier 5 could they adequately protect the legendary weapon and equipment they owned. Apart from upper-ranking hegemonic powers, apex powers, and conglomerates, no other power would dare to put their legendary weapons and equipment in the hands of a Tier 4 player. While the spectating crowd was looking at Shifeng enviously, Desolate Era, who had remained silent all this time, suddenly gasped. "I remember now." Desolate Era exclaimed in realization. "I remember where I heard Black Flame's name from. Commander." Lightning Chaser looked at Desolate Fury in confusion, failing to understand what was going through the other party's mind. So what if Desolate Era had heard Black Flame's name before? Black Flame was now the #1 target Lightning Chaser had to deal with. Not only because of Midsummer and Wu Xiaoxiao, but also because legendary items were incredibly important to the Extreme Eagle Corporation. If he could get his hands on an additional piece, he would have 2 legendary items in his possession once he got promoted to Tier 5. At that time, he would have a greater chance of becoming first in the corporation's line of succession. I was wondering why I had such a deep impression of Black Flame's name before, but now I know why, Desolate Era said, a flash of awe appearing in his eyes as he looked at Shifeng's figure. "It's because I happened to watch a recording of Black Flame fighting, and that recording was shown to me by none other than the Empire's #2 paragon. He even showed great interest in Black Flame." "Are you joking with me, Commander? That paragon from the Paimon conglomerate is interested in him?" Lightning Chaser was dumbfounded. The paragon in question was a genius from the Paimon conglomerate who had shocked the entire Myriad Forest Empire. Not only did he triumph over the various upper-ranking hegemonic powers' young paragons, but he had also fought the Myriad Forest Empire's publicly acknowledged #1 monster to a standstill. If it weren't for the battlefield's constantly shrinking size putting the Paimon conglomerate's paragon at a disadvantage, he wouldn't necessarily be in second place right now. "I'm not joking," Desolate Fury said, shaking his head. Then, with admiration, he continued, "Brother Black Flame had outperformed the Paimon conglomerate's meteor in the video. Moreover, in the miniature ancient world that the Starlight Realm's various hegemonic powers and even conglomerates have chosen to invest in, Brother Blackflame is known as the Azura Sword Emperor and currently ranks 7th on the Seven Luminaries Alliance's god list. He is much stronger than even the Twin Saints Alliance's Saint 9. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 313, Astonishing Identity. Chapter 313, Astonishing Identity. TL Notes. Made some changes to Chapter 306 and Chapter 311. Chapter 306, Original. If players partied up before the competition, they would be put into the same batches during the preliminaries. This allowed them to cover each other's backs and increase their chances of survival. Edited. If players partied up before the competition, they could cover each other's backs and increase their chances of survival if they got assigned to the same batch. I misinterpreted the rules. Chapter 311, Original. It should be known that Ocean Breeze, the Knight of Thousand Winds, was not only a genius who ranked 50th in the Myriad Forest Kingdom's first-generation rankings, but due to his class, he was also the bane of all magical classes. Edited. It should be known that Ocean Breeze, the Knight of Thousand Winds, was not only a genius who ranked 50th among the Myriad Forest Kingdom's younger generation, but due to his class, he was also the bane of all magical classes. I suspect it is a typo. 7th on the god list. Recognized by the Seven Luminaries Alliance as the Azura Sword Emperor. Stronger than even Saint 9. The information Desolate Fury revealed caused Lightning Chaser's mind to doubt his worldview. Although Lightning Chaser understood every individual word said by Desolate Fury, these words pieced together made zero sense to him. Setting the god list aside, just the fact that the Seven Luminaries Alliance was using a title to address a player meant that this player had already gained the Alliance's recognition. In other words, this player would be a titled expert recognized by the entire Greater Gods domain. But how could Black Flame, a person who didn't even have a golden leaf emblem, be a titled expert recognized by the Seven Luminaries Alliance? Moreover, he was stronger than even Saint 9. No matter how Lightning Chaser looked at it, this was simply a joke. It should be known that Saint 9 used to be one of the ancient River Kingdom's 10 great paragons. He had only withdrawn from the position after getting defeated by Saint 3. However, that didn't mean Saint 9 was no longer worthy of being one of the 10 great paragons. On the contrary, he could occupy a different position among the 10 great paragons whenever he wanted. Moreover, he would rank within the top 5. Azura Sword Emperor? So, he's that miniature Ancient World's rumored Azura Sword Emperor? He's the 7th paragon in that miniature Ancient World's god list. No wonder he can kill 4th floor experts like he is killing ants. I see. So that's why the two goddesses are showing him so much favor. If he's someone superior to Saint 9, even the young heiresses of the Starlight Realm's top 100 corporations will look at him favorably. When the others in the plaza heard Desolate Fury's exclamation, some of the more well-informed geniuses of hegemonic powers quickly came to a realization. At the same time, the envy in their eyes disappeared when they looked at Shifeng in the magic mirror. Instead, replacing it was feelings of reverence. The Greater Gods domain was an incomparable harsh place. It was a world where might was right and where the strong preyed upon the weak. This was because only those who were strong in the Greater Gods domain could live a better and longer life in the Greater World. Many corporations in the Greater World even depended on the Greater Gods domain's powerhouses for their prosperity. Meanwhile, Shifeng evidently possessed the qualifications to join the ranks of the Greater Gods domain's powerhouses in the future. Let alone talented beauties, even young men would be tempted to make a move on him. Brother Black Flame is that powerful? When Midsummer, who had just concluded her first round, overheard the discussions of the surrounding players, she couldn't help but look at Shifeng's figure in the mirror with widened eyes. Although Shifeng had already shown astonishing strength when he fought against Uncaring Arrogance's team, his achievements mentioned by the spectating crowd were on a completely different level. The fact that Shifeng was stronger than Saint 9 meant that he was at least equal to Saint 3. With such strength, he could already compete for the position of the ancient River Kingdom's first paragon. While the spectators in the plaza were having their impression of Shifeng refreshed, Shifeng gradually walked over to Wu Xiaoxiao and the titled assassin she fought. When the titled assassin saw this, He hurriedly distanced himself from Wu Xiaoxiao and eyed Shifeng warily. "Let's talk things out, Brother Black Flame. I am Unforgettable Leaf, and I am from the Myriad Forest Empire's Heavenly Boa Guild. What happened just now was just a misunderstanding. I don't have any intentions of being your enemy. I was only buying time and waiting until the round was over. I meant to do nothing more than that," Unforgettable Leaf hurriedly explained after taking his mask off. A player with a Tier 5 physique was not an opponent a Tier 4 titled expert could go up against. His current goal was only to get into the rookie competition's top 20 and advance to the Galaxy Conglomerate's official competition. If he couldn't get into the rookie competition's top 20, the challenges he'd have to face to get into the official competition would increase drastically. The Heavenly Boa Guild's Unforgettable Leaf. When Wu Xiaoxiao heard Unforgettable Leaf reporting his identity, she subconsciously stopped chanting her incantation, and a hint of hesitation appeared in her eyes. Any player who had lived in the ancient River Kingdom for some time would have most likely heard of the Heavenly Boa Guild's name. Where 6 hegemonic powers ruled the ancient River Kingdom, 3 guilds managed the Myriad Forest Empire. Meanwhile, Heavenly Boa was one of these 3 guilds. The guild was not only funded by 2 of the Starlight Realm's top 100 corporations, but it also possessed a paragon that the entire Myriad Forest Empire could only see once every century. Thanks to these factors, Heavenly Boa was currently the closest existence to becoming an upper-ranking hegemonic power in the Myriad Forest Empire. As for Unforgettable Leaf, he was quite the famous individual in the Myriad Forest Empire. He ranked 32nd during the Myriad Forest Empire's Battle of Geniuses. Not only was he one of the reserve executives being nurtured by Heavenly Boa, but he had also taken on the position of Vice Commander of Heavenly Boa's 3rd Trump Card Legion already. One could see how much Heavenly Boa valued him through this arrangement. "So you know me, Miss Xiaoxiao." Unforgettable Leaf smiled when he saw that Wu Xiaoxiao recognized him. He had previously worried that Shifeng might not know him. However, things were fine now that Wu Xiaoxiao knew his identity. After all, no power in the ancient River Kingdom dared to offend Heavenly Boa. Shifeng might be able to do as he pleased in the ancient River Secret Land, but once he left the Secret Land, the Heavenly Boa Guild would have plenty of ways to kill him. However, even after hearing Unforgettable Leaf's introduction, Shifeng calmly asked, "Are you done yapping? Brother Black Flame, I am here with an important mission from the guild this time." Unforgettable Leaf's voice grew cold when he saw that Shifeng did not stop approaching him. "If we continue fighting, it wouldn't do either of us any good. So, you're saying you can kill us, but we can't kill you. Is that right?" Shifeng chuckled. If Unforgettable Leaf truly intended to wait out the round, he could have simply hidden in the woods, and nobody would be able to find him. Yet, he did not do so. Instead, he had attacked them without hesitation, all because he thought he could bully them. "I already said this is a misunderstanding, Brother Black Flame." Unforgettable Leaf did not refute Shifeng's words. Instead, he lowered his voice even further as he said, "Why must you be so aggressive, Brother Black Flame? Do you think I can't beat you or escape safely from here?" The assassin class possessed the greatest survivability out in the fields. If an assassin's initial strike failed, they could simply run away, and nobody could catch up to them. Although Unforgettable Leaf was confident he could escape from Shifeng, doing so would require him to use some of his trump cards. Hence, he had chosen to bear with Shifeng. If he really made use of his trump cards, the only thing Shifeng could do was watch him get away. "Try and see if you can escape from me, then," Shifeng said in response to Unforgettable Leaf's confidence. Immediately afterward, a ripple of mana spread from under his feet, instantly covering a radius of 500 yards. Then, the shadow of a miniature world descended upon the covered area, isolating it from the outside world. Even the magic mirror in the plaza could no longer capture what was happening inside the affected area. World creation. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 314, True Swordsman. Chapter 314, True Swordsman World Creation. Wu Xiaoxiao's eyes widened in disbelief when she saw the miniature world's shadow descending upon the forest. World creation was an ultimate technique that only an incredibly small number of Tier 5 magical class NPCs could perform. Meanwhile, any Tier 5 player capable of executing world creation would be invincible among players of the same tier. Although there were some peerless geniuses in the Greater Gods domain capable of using world creation at Tier 4, their world creation was incomplete. They could only exert a limited suppression on their opponents using the power of the world they created. They couldn't prevent their opponents from using the mana in the affected area. In comparison, a player who could perform a complete world creation could not only influence their opponent's ability to use ambient mana, but could also suppress their opponent's life rating. This was why Tier 5 players who had mastered world creation were known to be invincible at Tier 5. Life rating was the foundation of all creatures in God's domain, and players were no exception. So long as a player's life rating was weakened, not only would they face a serious reduction in basic attributes, but even their physique would plummet. It was essentially an overall reduction in combat power. In a fight between two Tier 5 players, adding world creation to one side was enough to separate the two players into two different levels. Meanwhile, as soon as Shifeng's world creation took effect, Unforgettable Leaf's overall parameters instantly fell to the Tier 3 standard. At this time, Unforgettable Leaf most likely couldn't even beat an ordinary Tier 4 expert, let alone escape from the miniature world Shifeng created. World creation was more like a super-large magic barrier than a normal mana domain. Meanwhile, the walls of a complete world creation were something even Tier 5 players would have to expend significant effort to break through. With his life rating reduced to the Tier 3 standard, there was no way Unforgettable Leaf could do anything against it. While Wu Xiaoxiao was looking at Shifeng's world creation in disbelief, the spectators in the plaza were also experiencing a moment of shock. What happened? Why did the magic mirror stop working? What happened over there? I remember that the magic mirror can only observe areas up to a certain distance. If the selected area is too far, the magic mirror cannot observe it. But we are all on this floating island in the ancient river secret land right now, so it shouldn't be possible for them to be outside the magic mirror's viewing range. No. There is another possibility. The magic mirror can only observe scenes in the same world. Since the magic mirror can't locate them, they should be in a different world from us. That shouldn't be possible, right? They're currently in the competition area, so how can they be teleported out of the competition area? Moreover, the magic mirror shouldn't show a blank image even if they get teleported out of the competition area. It should continue showing the battlefield. No. There is one other possibility that can block the magic mirror's viewing without leaving the competition area. Could it be? Do you mean world creation? The many players in the plaza started voicing all sorts of speculations when they saw the magic mirror suddenly failing to display the battle between Shifeng and Unforgettable Leaf. Unforgettable Leaf was ranked 32nd among the myriad Forest Empire's younger generation geniuses. He might not be as strong as the ancient River Kingdom's 10 great paragons, but nobody could stop him out in the fields if he focused on escaping. Meanwhile, should Unforgettable Leaf successfully get away, Shifeng's group of 3 would have to be very concerned in subsequent rounds of the rookie competition. The assassin class's strong suit was not direct combat. Instead, the class shined in assassination techniques. Relying on these assassination techniques, an assassin could even kill players of a higher tier. After all, if a Tier 5 player received a vital hit from a Tier 4 player and got heavily injured, unless there was a massive difference in levels and basic attributes, it was entirely possible for the Tier 4 player to deal enough damage to kill the Tier 5 player before the latter could recover. Previously, Unforgettable Leaf had fought Wu Xiaoxiao head-on from beginning to end. He never showed the assassin class's true capabilities and simply thought of having Wu Xiaoxiao watch how Shifeng got killed. Otherwise, with Wu Xiaoxiao's vastly inferior combat standards, Unforgettable Leaf could have long since killed Wu Xiaoxiao. Commander, do you think Black Flame has really mastered world creation? The female cleric from the Purple Melody Alliance asked Desolate Fury when she saw the magic mirror's black screen, her eyes full of yearning. World creation was a goal all magical class players in God's domain dreamed of achieving. Anyone who could master world creation would be highly valued by the various hegemonic powers. They would also be given an elder's seat immediately if they joined a hegemonic power, even if they were only at tier 5. It should be a complete world creation, Desolate Fury said, a hint of envy in his eyes. Although the magic mirror isn't a powerful observation tool, it is made using magic that has been passed down from primordial times. An imperfect world creation isn't enough to stop it. So what if he knows world creation? Lightning Chaser suddenly smiled. Do you really think he can kill that unforgettable leaf with only this much? Have you too forgotten what Unforgettable Leaf's title is? Even the 6th Paragon had to expend quite a lot of effort to kill him during the Battle of Geniuses. If not for the dueling arena being overly small, Unforgettable Leaf might have even survived until the end of the round. Lightning Chaser admitted that he could no longer afford to clash against Shifeng. Shifeng having strength that surpassed Saint 9 meant the various hegemonic powers would definitely extend an olive branch to him. Even upper-ranking hegemonic powers would most likely try to recruit him. Although the Extreme Eagle Corporation's influence and strength in the Greater God's domain were above ordinary hegemonic powers, it was still significantly inferior to upper-ranking hegemonic powers. If Shifeng were to join an upper-ranking hegemonic power, he would most likely be put in a high position. In that case, Lightning Chaser could no longer afford to offend Shifeng. However, it was a different story for Unforgettable Leaf. Unforgettable Leaf was a future executive of the Heavenly Boa Guild. Meanwhile, Heavenly Boa was in existence with great prospects of becoming an upper-ranking hegemonic power in the future. So, Unforgettable Leaf did not have any reasons to fear Shifeng. Meanwhile, now that Shifeng had offended Unforgettable Leaf, with Unforgettable Leaf's vengeful personality, the assassin would definitely make it impossible for Shifeng's group to advance to the preliminaries top 100 if Shifeng failed to kill him here. Inside the combat zone. After Shifeng's world creation took effect, Unforgettable Leaf gradually disappeared from Shifeng's and Wu Xiaoxiao's vision and perception. A moment later, his presence in the miniature world disappeared completely. Black Flame. Do you really think I'll be afraid of you out in the fields? I'll let you know why the 7 Luminaries Alliance gave me the title of Undying Shadow. Unforgettable Leaf's voice came from all directions and constantly echoed throughout the woods surrounding Shifeng and Wu Xiaoxiao, making it impossible to track his whereabouts. Void Walk and Shadowless Killing Intent. Shifeng glanced at the swaying trees around him, sensing that Unforgettable Leaf's presence was everywhere in the surrounding woods. Yet, at the same time, the assassin was like a ghost that did not exist. Moreover, Shifeng could feel the killing intent that filled the air around him. It felt as if a dagger could pop out from anywhere to stab him at any time. If the average person were subjected to this situation, they would have to constantly keep their minds focused on their surroundings. Under such pressure, they would expend concentration rapidly, and they wouldn't be able to stay in battle for very long. Take Wu Xiaoxiao, for example. Even though she wasn't moving her body, her complexion had turned pale, an indicator that she was exhausting her concentration rapidly. That's right. I was originally saving this move for when I am competing for the top 10 since using it places a huge burden on my mind. But now, I'll test it on you too. When Unforgettable Leaf looked at Shifeng standing still from the void, he couldn't help but laugh maniacally. World creation was indeed a powerful technique. However, it had little effect on experts who had mastered Void Walk. This was because Void Walk allowed its user to travel out of their original world and traverse in the void, making it impossible for the players in the original world to perceive the user's location. Players going against a Void Walk user couldn't even attack the latter. They could only wait for the Void Walk user to leave the void and attack them first. However, Unforgettable Leaf did not need to leave the void to attack Shifeng. He simply needed to launch mental attacks from absolute safety. Void Walk. When Wu Xiaoxiao heard Unforgettable Leaf's unabashed admission, her expression became even more gloomy. Void Walk was a technique comparable to world creation. Once mastered, a player could freely come and go from a battlefield. While Wu Xiaoxiao was falling into despair, Shifeng suddenly turned to look at a nearby treetop. Do you really think a measly Void Walk is enough to keep you safe from me? After saying so, Shifeng suddenly disappeared and reappeared before the treetop he had eyed previously. Then, he unsheathed the winter of eternal night and brandished it against the treetop. Immediately, over a dozen sword lights formed and converged into a single point, the convergence of sword lights shattering space. Swords transmigration. Suddenly, space interlaced, an unforgettable leaf in the void had his heart pierced. Unforgettable Leaf wore a look of shock and confusion on his face, but as his HP bar had already depleted completely, he could do nothing but watch as his vision darkened and his body dispersed into countless particles of light. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 315, Kingdom Treasure Chest. Chapter 315, Kingdom Treasure Chest. TL Notes. Fixed a mistake in chapters 297, 306, Annual Rookie Competition - Monthly Rookie Competition. Unforgettable Leaf. A peerless genius of the myriad forest empire's Heavenly Boa Guild. He was also a titled expert recognized by the Seven Luminaries Alliance from a young age. The Undying Shadow. Unforgettable Leaf's title was known throughout the entire myriad forest empire. This was because during his battle against Impact Giant, the Empire's sixth paragon, during the Battle of Geniuses, Impact Giant had only managed to kill him after putting in a lot of effort and taking advantage of the arena's limited space. If not for the battlefield's restriction, Unforgettable Leaf could have simply used Void Walk, ending the fight in a stalemate. After the Battle of Geniuses, Unforgettable Leaf had even grasped the secret mental technique Shadowless Killing Intent. With the help of this secret technique, he didn't even need to find opportunities to re-enter the world and strike at his opponent. He could simply rely on Shadowless Killing Intent to exhaust his opponent's concentration. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that Unforgettable Leaf was invincible in the fields. Yet, now, Shifeng had killed Unforgettable Leaf out in the fields. Moreover, he had executed his attack so quickly that Unforgettable Leaf had died in the void without being able to react in time. He killed him? Just like that? Wu Xiaoxiao's eyes widened in disbelief when she saw Unforgettable Leaf's body disappearing into the void. The void Unforgettable Leaf had dived into wasn't something that could be reached simply by shattering space. Instead, it was akin to an alternate world connected to the original world. Although the two worlds were connected, a world barrier separated them. The world barrier in question was much stronger than even the world barrier of the miniature world created using world creation. Even Tier 5 existences would have great difficulty breaking it, let alone landing an attack on Unforgettable Leaf after breaking the world barrier. The reason Void Walk was powerful wasn't just because it was difficult to break the world barrier with normal attacks. Instead, it was also because there existed a considerable distance between the Void Walk user and the world barrier, even if the world barrier looked like it was only centimeters away from the Void Walk user. Meanwhile, this distance would create enough time for the Void Walk user to dodge any oncoming attacks. So, Wu Xiaoxiao found it inconceivable that Unforgettable Leaf had gotten killed without reacting to Shifeng's attack. When Shifeng saw the surprised look on Wu Xiaoxiao's face, he chuckled and explained, he might have learned Void Walk, but his mastery is low. The most he can do is walk around in the void. He still cannot integrate into the void. So, any attack that can achieve spatial destruction will reach him without any buffer time. If he cannot react to the attack when it is executed in the outside world, he won't be able to dodge it even if he enters the void. Void Walk was indeed a profound technique capable of rivaling world creation. However, Void Walk was divided into multiple levels. Meanwhile, players would only need to reach an entry level in the technique to freely travel in and out of the void. This was something even Shifeng could do. True Void Walk experts could integrate their bodies with the void, making it impossible for players in the outside world to locate their presence in the void. Moreover, they could traverse the void as naturally as breathing. They could even selectively hide parts of their body in the void. Simply put, they could accomplish attacks far beyond the imagination of ordinary experts. They had no need to hide in the void and rely on mental attacks to defeat their opponents. He can only walk around in the void. Wu Xiaoxiao grew a little speechless when she heard Shifeng talking about Void Walk so nonchalantly. If world creation was the technique that all magical class players in God's domain dreamed of mastering, then Voidwalk was the technique that all melee class players dreamed of learning. Not only could Voidwalk be used to dodge the suppression of world creation, but it could also be used to diversify one's attacks. Meanwhile, just the ability to traverse the void was already enough to put many melee class experts in awe. Players could also use this ability to avoid defeat in most, if not all, scenarios. Yet, Shifeng spoke about Voidwalk as if it were an insignificant technique. While Shifeng and Wu Xiaoxiao were talking, the sound of a system notification suddenly entered their ears. System, congratulations. You have passed the first round of the Ancient River Secret Lands preliminaries. Rewarding 1 Kingdom Treasure Chest. System, the Kingdom Treasure Chest will last for 10 days. It will become invalid if it expires or is brought out of the Ancient River Secret Land. Incredible. I can't believe they would give such an amazing reward on the preliminaries first round. Wu Xiaoxiao's eyes widened in surprise when she looked at the crystalline treasure chest that had appeared before her. A kingdom treasure chest contained astonishing rewards. It could contain anywhere from dark gold immortal equipment to fragmented legendary items. It could even contain points for the God's Domain Alliance. Moreover, the awarded amount was extremely generous, ranging from 5,000 to 50,000 points. The God's Domain Alliance's points were incredibly precious. They were even more well received than star coins. If people in the greater world wished to become mental strength grandmasters, gain higher status, and remain youthful for a longer time, the use of various potions was indispensable. Only, these potions were very expensive. Take the life potion, a potion for improving physical fitness, for example. Under the condition that one had the necessary connections to buy it, one would still have to fork out 50,000 star coins per bottle. In addition to the life potion, there was also the soul potion, which was used for improving mental strength. Each soul potion cost 100,000 star coins. The average person in a city only earned around 500 to 1,000 star coins per month. They couldn't afford to buy one bottle of life potion even with an entire year's worth of salary. However, to achieve any of the goals as mentioned earlier, a person needed to consume at least one life potion and one soul potion per year. This meant a yearly expenditure of 150,000 star coins. There was no way the average person could afford such an expenditure. Even after going under the Green God Corporation's wing, Wu Xiaoxiao guaranteed this yearly minimum requirement. If she wanted to increase her development speed, she could only rely on herself to purchase more potions. However, earning such a significant sum of star coins was easier said than done. Meanwhile, the God's Domain Alliance's points were of equal value as star coins. In other words, if she had 50,000 points, she could exchange one bottle of life potion or other precious resources. Moreover, she could do so directly through the God's Domain Association. She wouldn't need to look for interested sellers or worry about getting fleeced. So, the fact that she could potentially get 5,000 to 50,000 points in the preliminaries first round was simply amazing. Even if she was unlucky and only received 5,000 points, that would still be several years' worth of the average person's salary in the greater world's various cities. This kind of reward is normal. When Shifeng saw Wu Xiaoxiao's sparkling eyes, he smiled and explained, "Don't forget that our registration fee is 10 units of 7 luminaries crystal. All the collected fees go to the ancient river kingdom's 6 ruling hegemonic powers, so giving out such rewards is nothing to them. Moreover, this is only the first round. There are still several rounds for the preliminaries, and the rewards will only get better from this point forward." The ancient river kingdom's monthly rookie competition was a day for the 6 ruling hegemonic powers to harvest 7 luminaries crystals. At the same time, it was also a day for Tier 4 experts to earn money. Many Tier 4 experts were aware that they couldn't enter the rookie competition's top 100 and enter the ancient river secret lands core. Even so, they were still willing to join the rookie competition because of these rewards. So long as they managed to survive one round in the preliminaries, they would have their yearly minimum requirements taken care of. They would have struck gold if they got lucky and survived the second or even third round. After saying so, Shifeng promptly opened the kingdom treasure chest before him. At the same time as Shifeng concluded his first round in the preliminaries, the plaza outside was in an uproar. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 316, Ancient River Shocked. Chapter 316, Ancient River Shocked. Shrine Number 5's Plaza. Silence descended upon the entire plaza when the top 10 players of Shifeng's batch were announced on the translucent display in the center of the plaza. This list can't be right. I don't see Unforgettable Leaf's name anywhere. Did Black Flame really kill him? How can this be? This isn't an arena. If Unforgettable Leaf focuses on running away, how can any Tier 4 player kill him? Not to mention, Unforgettable Leaf is highly valued by Heavenly Boa. He had come here this time to compete for the top 20. Who would dare to eliminate him so early into the competition? The various powers experts couldn't believe their eyes when they looked at the qualification list. With Unforgettable Leaf's strength, he would have no problems getting into the rookie competition's top 20. With the help of Void Walk, not even the Ancient River Kingdom's 10 great paragons could kill him. Not to mention, everyone in the Ancient River Kingdom knew that Unforgettable Leaf was participating in the rookie competition on the Heavenly Boa Guild's behalf. The current Heavenly Boa Guild was only one opportunity away from becoming an upper-ranking hegemonic power. Meanwhile, the Galaxy Conglomerate's assembly could very well be this opportunity. If Heavenly Boa could get into the Galaxy Conglomerate's good graces, it had a very high chance of crossing the final threshold and becoming an upper-ranking hegemonic power. So, anybody who dared to hinder Unforgettable Leaf and the other geniuses from Heavenly Boa would essentially be making an enemy out of the entire guild. To think Unforgettable Leaf would get eliminated in the first round. Brother Black Flame has made a really huge mess. Desolate Fury was a little flabbergasted as he looked at Shifeng, who had just returned to the plaza. Desolate Fury wasn't surprised that Shifeng had defeated Unforgettable Leaf. After all, the Seven Luminaries Alliance had recognized Shifeng's strength and evaluated him to be stronger than even the Twin Saints Alliance's Saint 9. On the other hand, Unforgettable Leaf only ranked 32nd in the Myriad Forest Empire's most recent Battle of Geniuses. What Desolate Fury did not expect was for Unforgettable Leaf to get killed, on the first round of the preliminaries, no less. If news of this reached Heavenly Boa, the guild's anger could definitely cause the entire Ancient River Kingdom to tremble. While Temple Number 5's plaza had fallen into silence, about a dozen players in Temple Number 2's plaza gathered together. Every one of these players had reached already, and they all wore the Heavenly Boa Guild's emblem. Even the weakest among them was a fourth-floor expert, and nearly half of them were titled experts. After these Heavenly Boa members grouped up, a female ranger approached them a moment later. The ranger had pink hair that reached down to her waist. She wore a red and black leather jacket of exquisite quality, the jacket highlighting her perfect proportions. When she walked across the plaza, many of the surrounding players couldn't help but turn their heads and look at her, captivated by her beauty. However, when these players used their identification skills on the female ranger and saw her name, a chill instantly spread across their bodies. Empress Blood Arrow, La Roja. La Roja was one of Heavenly Boa's 7 great paragons. 2 years ago, she was also one of the Myriad Forest Empire's 10 great geniuses. However, after winning 3rd place in last year's Battle of Geniuses, she stopped participating in the Empire's Battle of Geniuses. She was a legendary figure among the Myriad Forest Empire's younger generation. Many experts even speculated that if Empress Blood Arrow had participated in the most recent Battle of Geniuses, she might be able to compete with the 1st and 2nd place winners. It should be known that the Battle of Geniuses' 1st and 2nd place winners this time were both incredible individuals. The former was a paragon the Myriad Forest Empire would only see once every century, while the latter was a paragon nurtured by the Paimon conglomerate. Both of these individuals had the potential to become big shots standing at the apex of God's domain in the future. After approaching the group of Heavenly Boa members, La Roja scanned the group before asking with a dissatisfied expression, "What did you call me here all of a sudden?" "Lady La Roja, we just received news that Unforgettable Leaf got eliminated in the first round," a male guardian knight said tentatively. "Eliminated? In the first round?" La Roja was evidently surprised by this news. Is it one of the ancient river kingdom's paragons? Or did the paragons of other kingdoms make a move? Unforgettable Leaf was one of the geniuses receiving priority training from Heavenly Boa. He might not be exceptionally strong, but he had learned the Voidwalk technique. With the help of this technique, only a handful of young experts from the ancient river kingdom and the surrounding kingdoms had the ability to kill him. No. According to the information we got, it was a man named Black Flame who killed Unforgettable Leaf, the Guardian Knight said, shaking his head. This news has already spread across the entire ancient river kingdom, and the various powers are all talking about it in private. Black Flame? When La Roja heard the name of Black Flame, she asked in surprise, "Do you mean the person who came in 7th in that miniature Ancient Worlds god list?" "That's right, it's him." The Guardian Knight nodded. Black Flame has severely disrupted our plans. He has also cast a layer of doubt on our influence in the ancient river kingdom. So, the Grand Elders want us to rectify this problem and show the ancient river kingdom's people that the Heavenly Boa Guild isn't some pushover. Those old bastards sure know how to order people around. La Roja's dissatisfaction soared when she heard about the Grand Elder's command. He's only a kid who's slightly stronger than Saint Nine, yet they want me to make a move. Are those old bastards going senile? Although La Roja's voice sounded soft and moving, the words she uttered caused the Heavenly Boa members present to shudder. You've misunderstood, Lady La Roja. The Grand Elders don't intend to let you take action. It isn't necessary for you to take care of such a trivial matter, either, the Guardian Knight hurriedly said. The Grand Elders have asked Lord Markless Blade to handle this matter. Markless? La Roja couldn't help but laugh. Indeed, he is quite suitable for this task. Lord Markless Blade has always refused to see the Grand Elders or us, so the Grand Elders hope that you can talk to him, Lady La Roja, the Guardian Knight said anxiously. If you are unwilling to speak, we can also go with you and explain the situation to him for you. The Heavenly Boa Guild's 7 great paragons all had different personalities. Among them, Markless Blade was the craziest. Besides La Roja and a few others in the guild, Markless Blade refused to listen to anybody else. This situation gave the guild's Grand Elders a huge headache. However, the guild's Grand Elders couldn't do anything about it. Markless Blade was not only one of Heavenly Boa's 7 great paragons but also the newly appointed vice-commander of the Star Lake Legion's madwoman Red Frost. So, he had the qualifications to act so arrogantly. Okay, come with me, then. However, it is up to you whether you can persuade him to act. La Roja had her interest piqued. Immediately, she spent some 7 luminaries crystals and teleported to another temple's plaza with the other Heavenly Boa members. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,